Joining the show today is a hockey analyst for ESPN and half of the Ray and Dregs podcast, although he might try and convince you that he's a little bit more than half. We got 53. Ray Ferraro. Thanks for jumping on, Ray.
53%, I think. Although I must say, Dregs does all the heavy lifting. He gets the guests. He's, I might suggest a few, but he's actually the facilitator. So I just kind of show up, which is really the strength of my ability, I think, is just keep showing up and you do it one day piece by piece, but I'm not the creator. No, that doesn't work for me.
Show up and look pretty. You got it.
You got half of it right, Scott.
Perfect. Well, opening question that we ask everybody, just because of its obscurity, Minnesota Wild logo, a lot of controversy around it. First time you saw it, did you see trees? Did you see an animal? Did you see, we've been told UFO? Like, what did you see the first time?
First time I saw the logo, I thought of like forestry. Mm-hmm. I did think almost immediately, I wonder what the mascot's going to be. Like, is it going to be like blowing air, or is it going to be nothingness? And so like, I got to be honest with you, I didn't really connect with the name when it came out, because I really to this day, I really don't know what the connection of it all is. I get the Wild. I get it, but I'm like, I don't know. I'd like to have like a fierce mascot, and I don't know that really is possible with that name, or, so that's kind of what I thought about. I'm not like, I like new names. I like different names. I don't mind that it's not a plural name, like the Stars or the Kings or anything like that. I don't mind that at all. They got me with that one. But hell, I was on the Thrashers. What does it matter, right? Like,
Well, and I mean, talking, you've been on a lot of teams that, quite frankly, don't exist today. There's a lot of controversy with the Carolina Hurricanes still using the great and iconic Hartford Whalers look. How do you feel about that personally?
First time I didn't like it, because they had, for years, almost had a separation. Like, it was like they didn't really acknowledge the Whalers part of their history. And I'm like, oh, well, and now they want to use the logo because everybody's figured out it's such a cool logo and it looks really good. And so I didn't like that. I get it from, look, it's a new owner. It's a new time. They want to use it. They want to connect a little bit to the heritage of the Whalers. Great. I get it. It's for finance too. Right. I mean, like, people buy the jerseys, the hats, they like them. They look good. Cool little side story about the Whaler logo, though, is that when we were playing in Binghamton, which was the Whalers farm team at the time, they just flipped the logo on its side and the W became a B, right? And so we always thought that we were a quarter turn away from the NHL. That was a good one. And it's a hell of a logo. It is. I think it's sharp. Like, you just look at it and you're like, exactly what is there. Like, you take a second look and you go, oh, there's the whale tail. There's the H. Like, I don't know. I just thought it was a brilliant logo.
Well, you mentioned the Thrashers in the proud history there. I know you played there for a little bit. There's a bit of movement to get another franchise back in Atlanta. And I was just curious from your perspective, do you think it's worth making another run at that? Do you think it's a viable place where maybe done right, it could work? Or do you think, other teams coming into play that maybe that ship has sailed?
Well, Joe, I don't know the ownership groups. I understand they're really well funded, which at the beginning and the end of all of it is what ownership has to be, in particular in sports in 2024. The Thrashers were an afterthought for Turner Sports in 1999, the mid 90s, when they were running up to starting the team. There was the Braves, there was the Hawks, and there's the hockey team. And so you can't, if it's just a schedule filler, it's not going to work anywhere. It just won't. You need to have money to finance the building, to finance the team, to finance the organizational costs that come with it, scouts, minor league teams, developmental programs. Sports are not getting to be smaller business, they're getting bigger business. What I understand, though, is the groups that are interested in Atlanta, that's not a problem. And so and the location, which is in a different spot, like getting into downtown Atlanta is not easy. It is a slog. And it becomes difficult to get 18,000 people in there 41 nights a year. So my understanding is the new area is, I know where it is. It's out off of the highway towards Alpharetta, and it's a really nice area. That's where the Braves are, and they've built 4 ballparks in Atlanta for the Braves, and so look, I think Phoenix can work too. They've never had an ownership that can make it work. They've not been funded to the point that it can make it work. They haven't been able to make a deal with local leaders to make an arena work in a place that works. In Atlanta, it seems like they're further down the road even than they were in Phoenix after 30 years.
Well, as you saw, our name of our podcast is Fellowship of the Rink, a playoff Lord of the Rings, and our fandom for that. I wasn't sure. Do you have like a nerd itch or fandom? I know like Bruno had collecting comics and he was into this. Like, I don't know if you had anything like shows that you and Cammy watch that you do, or any of the movies that you guys are into.
We are polar opposites of movie tastes, and like, for example, like there was this I don't know, it was probably 20 years, a Western that I thought would be really cool to watch together called Deadwood. Cammy got about, 12 to 14 minutes into it when Swearingen went through his third little tirade, and she's like, yeah, I'm out on this one. And I thought it was awesome. She likes the Harry Potter stuff and all that. I can't figure that out. I went to Star Wars. I remember when it first came out, I spent half the first movie asking who are the good guys and who are the bad guys. Like I just couldn't. It's just not in my headspace. I just can't. I can't. I'm a history guy. I love real historical figures and stories. This past year, I got to see Hamilton on Broadway for the first time. Oh my gosh, what an amazing show. And like I'm from Trail, BC. We don't have a lot of theater there. Certainly not when I was growing up. So all of this stuff is new and interesting to me. But my movie and reading tastes are more real life, like biography, history. So the fantasy stuff, I can never figure it out. I tried. I can't tell you how many times I tried reading The Hobbit, and I got like 6 pages in, and I'm like, I don't know what the hell's going on here. I got to get out of here.
Who are the good guys? Who are the bad guys? Yeah, I'm big on Deadwood too. I'm totally with you on that.
Good show, eh?
You a big fan of Tombstone movie?
You know what? I never got to it. Should I?
You have to. That's one of my personal favorite movies, period. The way that Val Kilmer portrays Doc Holliday is legendary. Right. But Wyatt Earp, too, is just an iconic character.
Yeah, I would. That will go on my list, and a list that I will be, while I'm on the road, I will watch, because that's one Cammy will have no interest in, guaranteed.
Love it. Report back.
Yeah.
Well, what's in your wheelhouse is Stanley Cup playoffs, and you are on hand for the Panthers and the Rangers series, which 2 overtime games already through 3 games. And I know that the numbers look pretty lopsided as far as the shot attempts and everything, including in game 3. What's your take on this series so far? I mean, is it probably more even? I mean, the scoreboard looks even, obviously, but I don't get to be slanted in terms of like the shots attempts and shots on goal kind of thing. Where do you see this series? Like, probably going to go 6 or 7.
Well, it is. I would be stunned if it doesn't go the distance, to be honest with you. I didn't think there was very much difference between the two teams, even though they play very differently coming into the series. If anybody tells you they figured out this series after 3 games, they're they're not telling you the truth, because what is the difference? At this point, the difference is a deflection off the shaft of Alex Wenberg's stick. He scored 1 goal in 31 games since he came to the Rangers. And a puck hits him in front of the net and goes in, and now they move on. The first period yesterday was 2-2. The shot attempts were 30-10 for Florida. The third period, Florida comes back to tie. It scores 2 goals. The shot attempts were 41-10. Like, it's not even close at various parts in the game. But the one thing the Rangers have always been able to do, in particular this year, because that's really what we're talking about, is they can quick strike. Alexis Lafreniere scored 2 lightning bolt goals yesterday. Beautiful goals. Barclay Goodrow all of a sudden is having he's having the playoff week of his life. And he scored a couple of goals, a nice tip, and then a really good shorthanded goal. They've got nothing from Zibanejad, Panarin, and Kreider in this series. So I think if you're the Rangers, you go, look, our goalie's awesome. 3 of our big boys haven't scored or even really impacted the game at all, and we're ahead by 1 game. We're up 2-1. If you're the Panthers, you must keep thinking, we just have to continue to play as much as we can like the third period. Because if they do that, sheer force and volume is going to probably put you in a good position. Yesterday was a wild, fun game. But I can't tell you that I feel the Rangers are in the driver's seat and they're up 2-1. How could you think that? But would you say that Florida's in great shape? They're down 2-1. Yeah. Like they're not in great shape, yet they've played better for longer in the series. And that's why there are times where I love analytics, and there are times when I feel like the old Charlie Brown cartoon where Charlie Brown tells Lucy, just tell your statistics to shut up. Because at the end of the day, the Rangers are up 2-1. Have they earned it? Yes, because they're up 2-1. Could you look at anything and say that's how it should be? Probably not, but it doesn't matter. They've been resilient. Their goalie's been awesome, and they've got the big goal that the Panthers haven't been able to get.
Yeah. There have been very few non-goalies who received the kind of ovation in Madison Square Garden that Rempe has received in his like many other skaters have had that kind of outpouring of even playing 7 minutes a night. Like, what do you make of him, his game, and the whole phenomenon this is kind of created there? Because obviously there's value in him as a player, or else he wouldn't be in the lineup for very important games in the season. But it feels like it's a very polarizing subject based upon kind of the hits that he's made, and then also the fact that he's kind of assumed that he has to fight every game.
Well, I don't know how long it's been since he's had a fight. Probably 20 games. Now, this is not because of Rempe, but when he's in the lineup, they're 22-3-1. So you're looking. So say you take Rempe out and put another fourth liner in, and he plays 7 minutes. His impact is minimal, right? Like a 7-minute player is not going to have a major impact on the game. Where Rempe gets himself into trouble is if he takes a penalty like he did yesterday. I think it was his second shift. He slammed Sam Reinhart into the boards, takes a penalty, it's in the net, and he ends up playing 4 minutes on the day. I don't know why it's polarizing, other than if you don't consider that fighting is part of the game. Because he's in the lineup, he does the job that he's capable of doing. He's actually pretty effective. When he cycles the puck, when he's got control of the puck, who's getting the puck away from him? Now, it might not lead to a scoring chance, but if you get that line out against the other team's second line and they have a shift down there, they're able to hold it. They're able to kill that shift. That's a benefit to your team. I've talked to Matt a few times. I'm telling you, he is a wonderful kid. He is really nice. He's really respectful of where he is. He's super in awe of being there. Like, he's having the time of his life. And I think if he were 6'1", people wouldn't even notice. But the guy's the biggest dude on the ice by a mile. Like he was standing next to Ryan Lomberg, who's a tough customer. They were standing together at a face-off, and I was like, I actually commented, look at the size difference between these two guys. Like Lomberg's 5'11", he's almost a foot taller. It's amazing. I think they've won 2 in a row when he's in the lineup. There's no chance he's coming out for game 3. Why would you take him out?
Yeah, that's fair. And what do you have any tips for a guy like Jacob Trouba, who has this condition where anytime someone's within like 1 or 2 feet of him, his arms just immediately asphyx out? Like,
don't. Like it's a penalty every time.
It's ridiculous.
He was probably fortunate that the contact was to Rodriguez's neck and not to his head, or that's 5 in a game. Like it would have been a 2-second review. But he has the reason he does that is when he's beat, it's a last minute reaction. Right? Like he had a hit. There are times when he makes hits or attempts hits that aren't in that scenario. Like he tried to hit Martin Necas in the first round. If he would have hit him, if he would have made contact on that hit, like it would have an instant suspension. Like he launched himself into the hit. Most times it is a reaction late. And so, I can't believe the coaches haven't, and himself haven't looked at video and said, look, when he's there, your play is with your stick, because when your elbow comes out, first of all, it's a penalty. Secondly, they're looking for it now. It's not the first time it's happened.
They should have been looking for it for a while now.
Okay, but you're allowed to do that, but you get a penalty. Like you're allowed to, like, one of the dumbest phrases that I've heard in the last decade is we're going to get that out of the game. It's not a hockey play. If it happens between when the puck hits the ice and the last horn goes, it's a hockey play. Might not be a good one, but it's a hockey play because it's in the game. It's not a baseball play.
Yeah.
It's not a movie. It's a hockey play. And so you can say we want to get checking from behind out of the game. Think of how many things in society you want to get out of society. There's a penalty for it. In hockey, there's a penalty for it. In Trouba's case, he got a penalty yesterday. Had the review showed that his elbow had hit Rodriguez's head, the penalty would have been more severe. It would have been 5 in a game. And that would have been a pretty severe penalty in that context.
For sure. Now, to the other side of the conference finals, I'm not even going to get into what's a great series. I got to lead off here, and you'll probably know where I'm going with this right away. One of my favorite highlights that I've ever seen has something to do with a player named Patrik Stefan. And I believe you were on the wondering,
yes, I was.
Take us through that. Like, what was going through your mind as all of that unfolded?
Well, I had played with Patrik for a couple of years in Atlanta. And I mean, Patrick's, was unfairly drafted number 1. In that draft, basically, the Sedins were drafted behind him. And the way the deal worked, Vancouver was going to come out with both of them. And Patrik had been he's a big kid, had played pro in Long Beach the prior year. So the thought was he was ready to play. He was not even close to ready. An expansion franchise didn't take their time because there was a panic. Hey, we got to get our number 1 pick in there. And he's not the most forceful player. So when I see him go in, all that's kind of in my head. And it was such a soft play. When from 15 feet away, there's not a player in the NHL that can't shoot that puck into the net. Like, just shoot it into the net. So it frustrated me that he tried to go to his backhand and just touch it into the net. And the puck jumped over his stick, which can always happen, right? I would say if I did that again today, I probably wouldn't have been as harsh. as I was. But here's the thing. There's all kinds of ink spilled in people's comments on what announcers say during a game. And I get it. We're doing that live, right? We don't get a time to think about it. We get so my emotion of that play, which also was a Oilers broadcast, that had he missed the net and the game ended, it would have been forgotten to history. Mm-hmm. However, as he tried to save the play, he ends up passing it, I think, to Jarrett Stoll. Like right on his tape. There's no time, right? Like there's no time for it to go get the puck. It was right on his stick. And then boom, that puck's up the ice, and 2 passes later, Hemsky scores. And it's tied. Like it was the most ridiculous set of circumstances that you could imagine. And the building exploded. And, I was like super excited. And all of that just came out. And I've seen Patty since then. And like, I would do it a different way. Put it that way. I would comment on that a different way. For every year, the anniversary of it comes out and somebody reposts it, and I always go, like I know what's coming, but it was still to this day one of the craziest things that you could see, because, as I said, he's 15 feet away. There's nobody around. Just shoot it in the net. But he didn't, and turned out to be a hell of a comeback. Although the other part is Dallas won in overtime anyway, so it didn't really matter. No one
remembers that one, but yeah.
No.
A guy both of you and I know well, Dean Evason. I think eventually he'll get another shot to be a head coach in this league. Obviously, well respected here in Minnesota. You'd go back with him. Do you have a favorite Dean Evason story?
Oh, I got a million. Got a million.
I know you probably have countless ones, but a favorite one you could share that fans would get a kick out of.
Well, okay, so when we were 20, he was with Washington at the time. I was with Hartford. We got sent down to the American Hockey League, and we shared a farm team in Binghamton. So like, just think that would never happen now. Everybody's got their own team. But so Dean and I lived together. We didn't really know each other, but we lived together in this apartment, furnished, $460 a month in Binghamton, New York. We didn't have a car, so we bought and if you don't know what it is, go look it up. It's an AMC Matador, which the guys on the team called the Bull because it was about a block long, and we paid $600 for it. And so if you think of that, we split $300 each on the car. The rent was $230 each a month, utilities included. And so we live our way together. We have all the fun and all the ups and downs that 20-year-olds can have. Like, nobody could cook. Dean did all the cooking. He'd be on the phone with his mom, and she'd be giving him the recipe to make like whatever, whatever. I didn't know how to cook. I'm from an Italian family. Whatever my mom did, how it got from the stove to the table was of no. It was out of my brain. It was just like, it was there and it was really great. And then all of a sudden we had to do it ourselves. So by the way, we go through the year. I get called up. Dean finishes the year in the minors, and we got this car. So he calls me. He's like, "What do you want to do with the car?" I'm like, "I don't know. I don't want it." In the meantime of the year, the muffler had fallen off. We ripped the muffler off, so we're driving around with no muffler. It's like it's a piece of junk. So Dean leaves. He leaves all of our stuff, like the pots and blankets and everything, in the trunk of the car, rolls the windows down, and puts the keys in the ignition and leaves. Right? Just goes back to Brandon, Manitoba. He gets a call from the police department like in June. So he left in like April. Mm-hmm. So he gets a call from June, and they say, "Hey, what are you doing with this car?" He's like, "Well, I don't want it." He goes, "Well, it's still where you left it." No, this is how bad a car was. Nobody took it. The keys were in the ignition. There was gas in the tank. And so Dean said to the policeman, he's like, "Hey, do you want it?" And the guy's like, yeah, I got a 16-year-old. Sure, I'll take it. So the guy sent him the papers. Dean signed them and sent them back with the keys. Oh, no, the guy had the keys, sent the papers back and gave the car away. But that's how 20-year-olds deal with a problem. We're like, here, we just passed it along. Look, I think Dean's an awesome coach. I think he's gotten better year by year by year. He's an amazing guy. I really enjoy being around him, and I know players really like playing for him. I'm surprised I haven't heard his name more this summer. I thought Winnipeg might be a good fit for him. I thought Jersey might be. I still think Seattle is a place, but I'm surprised that it's in a very competitive year hasn't sprung up yet.
Well, the Seattle Ron Francis thing makes a lot of sense too.
It does, but there's, it makes, to play the other side of the coin. If it was going to be Dean, wouldn't it be by now?
That's true.
Or does it have to be somebody that's still coaching somewhere?
Mm.
I don't know how those coaches searches work. But I do know, Todd McClellan's still out there. Jay Woodcroft is still out there. Dean's still out there. There's really quality, competent coaches to compete against. And that goes past that Travis Green's been hired and Sheldon Keefe was rehired and Craig Berube was hired. This was a loaded coaches class. And, man, it's competitive to get behind one of those 32 benches.
Yeah, it is. And we got just a couple more here. Ray, are we still okay on time?
Yeah, sure.
Awesome. So you've done a lot of really great things, both in your playing career and post-playing career and broadcast and, all the analyst work you've done. I got to imagine that the coolest is having the opportunity to interview your son at intermission.
Yeah, talk about a thing that came together by happenstance, by good fortune. Landon was with Detroit, and he was put on waivers and picked up by the Bruins. So the waiver period is really crazy because literally nobody knows what's going on. So I'm texting people that I know around the league that I think might hear, and everyone's like, no, that's not how it works. Nobody knows what's going on. So I know that the claim period is 12 o'clock the next day. When a player goes on waivers, they have 24 hours, and it's noon Eastern the next day. So I'm sitting there, phone rings, I see it's Landon, and I'm like, hey, what happened? And he goes, Boston. And I'm like, oh, are you kidding me? Amazing. Fantastic. He's like, I got to go. I got a call here. I got to get to Toronto. And I'm like, Toronto? And he goes, yeah, Bruins play in Toronto tomorrow. And I'm like, Landon, I'll see you there. I'm doing the game. And he's like, oh, awesome. I'll call you when I get in the car. So, because they had a driver take him from Detroit to Toronto. So he gets in the car. I tell Cammie, I can't believe it. I'm going to see Landon tomorrow. He's going to be with the Bruins. So I see him for 30 seconds in the morning because I know I've been to a new team. It's like your head's blowing up with information and trying to learn guys' names and who your line is. And so I see him in the morning. I'm like, hey, son, how you doing? He's like, great. And I'm like, okay, have a great game. I'll talk to you after. Love you. And so he went. So my producer, Chris Edwards, awesome producer at TSN, he doesn't tell me anything. I'm doing the period. The game's on. It's now the end of the first period. We do our regular intermission. Come back. I do the second period. There's a minute left in the period. And he comes in my ear and says, Ray, you're going to interview Landon at the break. And I go, what are you talking about? And he's like, yeah, you're going to interview Landon. I go, no, I don't want to do that. And we had joked about this, Landon and I, for years, as a dream it would be if this could happen. And he goes, yeah, too late. PR is going to tell him. So Landon's going down the runway, which is to the right. I'm between the benches. And I see the PR guy say to him, TSN. And Landon says, okay. And he points to me. And the look on his face must have matched the look on my face. Are you kidding me? he doesn't really want to do the interview. I'm nervous as hell. Like, I don't want to screw it up. And so he comes over there and I'm like, hey. And he's like, yeah. I go, well, look at the camera up there. And all I could think of, like, I couldn't even think of how to start the interview. And I just said, well, something to the effect of, well, this is pretty odd. And like, like I'm interviewing my son, and it was so great. It was so much fun. And to watch him play in the NHL, to watch him realize his dream growing up, to be able to talk to him and like have a public record of it was, you're right. It was about the coolest thing. I look at it every once in a while, the best thing about our phones is we get those memories that pop up, on our phone. Mm-hmm. And that interview will pop up in the memories thing. And I look at it and I watch it again. And it was the best. It was the best. I mean, he had an injury riddled career. He fought through more than he really needed to, complete reconstruction of his knee, surgeries on both groins, just a wrist problem. He just couldn't grab the traction he needed. But man, he fought and played pro hockey for 10 years, and really, really proud of him.
You should be, and you're one of the maybe 1%, right, of a parent who has a kid who plays in the NHL. And I've heard you give speeches before, or interviews before, about being a hockey parent. And there are lots of hockey parents in Minnesota. A lot of them have played before, have been coaches before, and think their kids are going to get to the next level. And I was curious, from your experiences, of what kind of advice would you give for parents of youth hockey players or kids now about that process and that dream and trying to manage that from a realistic, perspective?
Well, Joe, I would say the first thing is that there is probably nothing more emotionally connective with your children's upbringing than watching them play sports, or watching them do the thing that they love, because you want so badly for them to be successful. And that's what they want. And you're willing to put money and time and your effort behind all of that. But at the end of the day, your contribution is to watch and support. It's not to coach. It's not to tell your son or daughter that their coach is no good or that their coach should do this. If you want to coach, coach. But your job is to support, because it is so difficult to advance. It's so difficult as you advance to get to the next spot, because now the herd gets tighter as you advance. And if you think about it, if I come to your work and every time you make a mistake, I tell you about it, and I tell you about it with emotion and firmness, how does that make you do your job better? All it does is make you more fearful of making another mistake. That's why it's support. He or she does not need you to break down every play. Mm-hmm. I had this amazing dad. My dad was he was the best. And we'd get in the car, his work truck, in trail. I'd come out, I'd throw my bag over the truck into the back. Half of the time it was full of snow. And I'd just flip it in the back, throw my stick back there, I'd get in the truck. And we'd start driving home. He never said a word. Nothing. Didn't say good game, bad game, nothing. We'd drive, and it would usually take me to the first stoplight, which was probably a couple of 100 yards. And I'd say, what do you think? Because I wanted his opinion. And he'd say, oh, geez, that was a good game today. Or, oh, you didn't really have your legs today. And, oh, I like this. But it was always something really quick and really short that allowed me to talk about the game to him, to flesh it out. And then he would give me a little tidbit back. Look, he never skated a day in his life, but he watched me skate every stride from the time I was 5 until I was 18. So he knew what my game was about. So to the parents, I would say, as much as you understand your child's game, you probably need to take a half a step back and think about support as opposed to coach. And I'll give you one quick story. We have a now 17-year-old, Cammie and I, who's turning out to be quite a talented soccer player. Now, Cammie and I think we know sports, but we don't know the ins and outs of soccer. So at the time, he's about 10, 11, and they're in a tournament. And soccer is different than hockey. People don't yell and scream from the sidelines as much. So they're ahead 1-0. I'm standing in the right corner. It's late in the game. He's a forward. He plays on the front line. And the ball comes in the corner. And for whatever reason, I yell at him, "Riley, hunt it." I don't even know what that means. But anyway, and so he doesn't look at me. He doesn't hunt the ball. He just kind of does his thing. And the game goes on. Turns out they win. So we're in the car on the way home. And he says, "Dad, I heard you yell, 'hunt it' to me. But if I run at the ball there and I don't get there, they pass it into the middle and then they pass it up to the far side and they've got a free run up the other side of the field. My job's to keep the ball contained." And I said, "You know what, Riley, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to watch your games and keep my mouth shut." Because it was such an amazing lesson of half the time the parents are giving advice and they're wrong. The game that they played as kids is not the game of today. So the advice they're giving their kids is not, in a lot of cases, correct. And even if it is, just sit there and support. Give them a tidbit that maybe they can catch and grow on. But man, telling them what they do wrong all the time, pushing them and shoving them. If they want to do the work, they'll do the work. Just because you spend money on them doesn't mean they need to get better. They're going to try to get better. But if you spend money, that means you've given them support. Back up. Let them do their thing. It's their job. It's their journey. It's not yours.
That's awesome.
Very well said. Yeah.
Yeah. And we'll wrap on this one, Ray. I'm not sure. A big golfer?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Well, this one will be perfect for you. This one is for our friends at Waggle Golf. This is our Waggle Golf dream foursome question. Everyone go to getyourwaggleon.com, promo code SP10 to take 10% off. So Ray, we're talking dead or alive. It can be one of your favorite characters from Deadwood for all I care. If you're compiling your dream golf foursome, who are the other 3 golfers that are going to be joining you?
Well, I want them to be good players, right? Like, back to Evason, I can never beat him anyway. He's too good. He's just too good. I wish I would have had a little advance on this. Let me think here. I would probably put Tiger Woods there because I was a big Tiger guy, and I still kind of hope that he could cobble together 4 rounds somehow. But so I would say he would probably be in it. My favorite baseball player, the middle name of my oldest son is James. Jim Rice would be in it. I'm a huge Red Sox guy. I jumped on that bandwagon in 1975 when they were going to the World Series. I was 11, and I didn't realize it was going to take 30 years for them to win. Fourth one. You know what? I wish my dad was there. I miss my dad. It's been a long time. And man, you could put 4 amazing people together from all realms of different parts of life. But man, I'd like to spend 5 hours again. That would be great.
One heck of a cart ride through 18 holes, right? So that'd be one heck of a...
It really would. It really would. He still wouldn't let me drive the cart. He used to tell me. He started a concrete business in 1947, and as he was ill towards when he passed, he told my brothers, "Whatever you do, don't let Raymond touch anything that moves." And so he knew.
Fathers always know. They always have a way of knowing. So
they do. They do.
Well, thanks so much, Ray. I know you have a lot of work to do with the series here, but thanks for taking the time for us, and really enjoyed this chat. And we'll catch up soon.
Awesome. Enjoy the day, guys. Thanks for reaching out, and we'll talk again.